The sudden appearance of the personal space unexpectedly connected a world of cultivation. Li Ji, who was determined to get up and develop, accidentally discovered that space could actually decompose corpses. Give him feedback on the talent, techniques, supernatural powers, and even blood vessels of the corpse. Subsequently, the snake demon, the plant spirit who can refine pills, and the mysterious guardian beast arrived one after another. The original title of this book. I really just want to be a bad guy. Keywords of the novel. The practitioner who shuttles between two realms without a pop-up window, the practitioner who shuttles between two realms. Complete collection download, the practitioner who shuttles between two realms. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. A Chaotic World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. A Chaotic World. The words are divided into two parts. Emperor Gaozu was wise and visionary in the past, and highly valued Wu Yan, Bu Xia, and Lu Kang. On the storytelling platform, the gentleman spoke eloquently, almost praising Sun Zhongmo to the fullest. Li Ji was drowsy from listening. If it weren't for trying to figure out the situation in this world, he would have slapped him a long time ago. Have you ever thought about the feelings of Governor Zhou Yu when you were praising Sun Zhongmo? Li Ji, male, a university monk who lost his job right after graduation. A few days ago, I suddenly got a portable space. I originally wanted to become a magician and make a fortune, but who knew that this portable space was not that simple? Portable space is only an additional feature. What really surprised him were the other two things. 1. Decompose animal carcasses, extract characteristics and provide feedback to Li Ji. Li Ji accidentally decomposed the body of a cat and obtained dynamic vision and superneural reflex speed. Later, I spent all my savings, huabei, jibei, and credit card balance and got a cow. Obtained a physique of 1 cow's strength. 2. The space is equipped with a portal, and upon arrival, it is a world of ancient dynasties. Later, Li Ji gained confidence and plunged into this space to explore. Now is the 15th day of his reading in a tavern in a certain city of Jingzhou. The people here speak Chinese and write traditional Chinese characters. And the most eerie thing is this country, called Wu State. It is the state of Wu in history, but it is somewhat ambiguous. After a serious illness, Sun Lauer stood up and exclaimed, "The immortal helps me." Later on, the whole life was like playing tricks, valuing the minister of the humorous and listening to the strategies of loyal officials. Even he himself seemed to be cheating, capable of carrying a tripod, and pulling out hanging willows was just a small gesture. Entering the blade with empty hands and the undamaged body of the diamond is called Diao. The most ridiculous thing is that in those days, Shu and Wei were forced to fight against Eastern Wu hand in hand. With the fallen country right in front of him, Sun Lauer calmly blew a whistle and a unicorn ran down from the sky. The body is as big as a mountain, spewing flames at its mouth, stomping its hooves is like shaking the earth and mountains. Take a breath and let the swan fur snow fall heavily in July and August. When Wei saw that the situation was not right, Sayazi ran away and sold a group of generals and soldiers from Shu. Finally, upon receiving the news, Uncle Huang traveled day and night, killing 6 fast horses and rushing to the battlefield. Seeing Sun Lauer, he fell to his knees with a thud. In front of dozens of generals from various countries and countless soldiers, a sentence was left behind, "My head presents you with wine, and I earnestly request that thousands of soldiers be spared." Later, without saying a word, Uncle Huang pulled out his dragon phoenix double swords and committed suicide in front of the 3 armies. When Li Ji heard this, he was completely stunned. I've always heard that Liu Bei is hypocritical, this TM is called hypocrisy. Sun Lauer was also not ambiguous. On the same day, he announced that the state of Wu would unify the world, and no one in the presence dared to oppose it. After all, the guardian beast de Qilin is still licking Sun Lauer's head. Later, Liu Bei was remembered as unparalleled in benevolence and righteousness, and he was posthumously conferred the title of King of Shu, who had a different surname and had no hereditary succession. Pop. On the stage, the storyteller gave a heavy slap that startled the audience, pulling back Li Ji's attention. I am a heavenly immortal, pitiful for the suffering of the people. Today, I have spread the Tao that everyone can become a dragon. The gentleman was already crying uncontrollably when he said this. The audience below, whether or not they shed tears, followed suit and wept. Nonsense, this sentence is a farewell message from the immortal ancestor Sun Quan. Whoever doesn't cry, just wait to put on your little shoes. Two Kwai are still sitting in the tea house, waiting to see who doesn't cry. After crying for a while, the gentleman quickly changed his smiling face and beckoned the servant to come down with a plate to beg for a reward. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for giving me half a penny as a reward. Thanks to Guoxiuzai for the money. 2 copper coins. With the sound of the announcement, the plate came to Li Ji. Li Ji didn't hesitate, he just reached out and threw a piece of silver over. The servant's eyes widened as he looked, his face flushed, and his voice hoarse and shouting, Li Gongzi, a reward, 1 silver. Everyone responded to Li Ji with the gaze of a foolish person with a big fat sheep. Li Ji didn't care either. He clenched his fists in front of everyone and smiled shyly. Wipe it. This persona is really difficult to maintain, 1 silver. I'll give you a damn silver. A little maid is only 5 silver in the state of Wu, 100 copper coins are consistent, 1,000 is 1 silver, and 10 silver is 1 gold. However, gold is basically not circulated in ordinary households. Eating a big cake for a day only requires 2 copper coins. When Li Ji first arrived, he didn't even have a guide and was grabbed by the yamen. Seeing that he was about to be sent to prison as a 301, Li Jiling's machine moved and claimed that he was a remnant of the Shu Han dynasty back then. During the period of war, the whole family moved overseas. Now that both parents have passed away, the 2 elders confessed before their death that they must return to their hometown. Subsequently, the county magistrate asked Li Ji to provide evidence. Li Ji was also not ambiguous, handing over an artificially raised pearl on the spot, saying that it was a clam pearl produced overseas. Upon seeing such a large amount of evidence, the county magistrate must have been a remnant of the Shu Han dynasty. He immediately registered Li Ji as a resident in Xiangyang City. Yes, this city is called Xiangyang City. You asked pearl. What pearl? Where are their pearls? Subsequently, in order to stabilize his foothold in Xiangyang City and facilitate future shipments, Li Ji reluctantly established the image of a spendthrift. Mr. Li is so generous. We have time to drink tea together. I have tribute tea, please taste it. Zhang Yuanwei seized the opportunity and approached Li Ji to show goodwill. He is in the business of the 4 treasures of the study, and his customers are all scholars. The precious stones and jade in Li Ji's hands have a great market in his area. Humph, Confucius once said. Guoxiuzai stared at the silver reward given by Li Ji and then said sourly. Li Ji didn't pay much attention to the situation. Although this scholar was poor, now Hao was a scholar and a talented scholar, worthy of respect. Guoxiuzai, how about teaching me how to read and break characters tomorrow at my mansion? Humph, I can read it. 1 consistent day, 1 ending a day. Dot. Absurd. Rude. Shameless. Vulgar. Guoxiuzai was a bit angry and left the tea house with a flick of his sleeve. Did you take the wrong medicine? Hey, will you come tomorrow? Li Ji couldn't figure it out as he looked angry. He, Li Gongzi is so elegant. Zhang Yuanwei grinned twice and exclaimed, Li Ji knows how to play. I made an appointment with Mr. Zhang to taste tea the day after tomorrow, and Li Ji walked back to the mansion in 3 leisurely steps. During this period, I smiled and warmly greeted the neighbors, maintaining my personal image. Just as soon as I entered the mansion, my face suddenly turned from sunny to gloomy. Duya, the little maid in the mansion, was so frightened that she trembled and huddled in the firewood shed, afraid to come out. How unreasonable! Even though everyone is like a dragon, how could it be so difficult to find a cultivation method? He is generous and generous, spending a lot of money to make friends, just to gain more channels and obtain a martial arts book. But at this moment, let alone the cultivation of immortals, not even the most vulgar martial arts system has been exposed. And that Guoshiozai, who knows no good or bad. Li Jiji tolerated Guoshiozai's criticism because he valued his literary talent and character. Li Ji's abacus is very precise. He only has a limited understanding of traditional Chinese characters, but various techniques are not something that can be practiced with just a few words. Although there are also traditional Chinese characters in the main world, there are still differences. There is no room for error in the practice. Making friends with Guoshiozai is to prevent them from backstabbing him when they ask for advice on parts of the martial arts that they cannot understand in the future. This person really has character, but he is also a stinky bone. Winter wolves lurk, frost tigers roar, giants roar. Many creatures struggle to survive amidst flying snow. At the same time, a white juvenile dragon controlling the power of time broke through its shell and opened its pair of platinum dragon lights with brilliant colors. Years later, in the endless world, there was an additional dragon who wandered through the past, present, and future, appearing on various timelines, creating endless legends and controlling time. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Arrival of Start.up Funds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Obtaining Start.up Funds. The main world, a jade and stone sales store. Are you not worried about the origin of this thing? I can see that you're really an outsider. The boss remained silent for a while, but ultimately did not explain to Li Ji. Instead, he left a sentence behind: I'm not afraid of a buyer, you're afraid of a hammer as a seller. The transaction price for the chicken blood stone metal in Luguanzhang frozen stone land, Bahrain is 1.7 million yuan. Your stone is much smaller than that one. For the sake of being full of fame, I'll give you 700,000 yuan. But I can give you cash, just carry it and leave. Can you understand this? Meaning, to be honest, this price greatly exceeded Li Ji's expectations. It's not high, it's low. Although he doesn't understand chicken blood stones, he can still guess that the boss will definitely lower the price. But so what? It's not like tens of millions of things being pressed down to millions. What if this stone costs around 1.5 million yuan to get to the auction house? Sell for 1.5 million yuan, deduct the handling fee and pay the tax, leaving a maximum of 1 million to 100,000 yuan. What's the point of having an extra 2 to 300,000? Can it grow? With this waiting time, he might as well use the cash to buy supplies and go to the state of Wu to see if he can find the cultivation method. He still has too much larger stones in his hand. If he wants them, Zhang Zhangko and Zhang Yuanwei can get him a few larger ones. He urgently needs Start.up funds now, and once he has the Start.up funds, he can proceed with the next step of the plan. What can't a free country on the other side of the ocean in the main world be sold? We must take risks and hang ourselves domestically. If it's cash, then it's a deal. Li Ji nodded heavily and agreed to this transaction. Seeing Li Ji agree, the boss's face also showed a satisfied smile. From the moment he saw Li Ji's stone, he knew he was ready to eat this kid. The price of this stone has been precisely controlled to around 1 million, it's like the heavens are helping him. This transaction is not about picking up loopholes, but it's better than picking up loopholes. A fair and upright Yang scheme. Some businesses rely on picking up leaks, while others rely on deceit and fraud. He is playing Yangmo, a time-honored brand in the Jade and Stone studio. The auction house charges a handling fee, and the money into the card also needs to be taxed. The built.in vault of Yishizhai contains billions of cash for this type of transaction. A transaction of around 1 million or 100,000 is the most suitable. Customers can leave with their bags, it's safe to leave without leaving a trace. After receiving the money, Li Ji's first thing was to take a taxi back to school. I found my junior brother who is still in his junior year and redeemed his ID card. Brother, you can do it. There's a lot of money coming in. After handing in the money and the certificate on the other hand, the younger student casually picked up a cigarette and joked about Li Ji. Almost none of those who get their mortgage ID cards can redeem them on their own. Most of them are junior students who use various means to contact each other's families. But ordinary people don't give 500 yuan, at most 200 yuan. Some students cannot contact their families, so they simply pack their ID cards and give them to someone else, a 205, which is quite good. This junior student is quite righteous towards Li Ji. 500 yuan, if brother can't even get this 500 yuan, then don't mess around. Li Ji smiled wryly and patted his elementary school brother's shoulder. Let's go eat. Oh ho! Did you really get rich? Elementary school brother's eyes lit up. Didn't he win the lottery? Li Ji shook his head and remained silent. He invited this junior to dinner, and thanking him was second to none. If the other party had a wide range of options, it would be of great use in the future. In the Lamian Noodles restaurant in the university town, one person has a bowl of Lamian noodles with 20 meat, and the mouth is full of oil. I heard you have a way out, but when I come back, I want to get a tourist visa to go to the free country and have fun. I'll go by myself. During the banquet, Li Jilu revealed his true purpose. Free country. The junior looked up and down at Li Ji, shaking his head. Join a group, brother, otherwise your financial level won't be able to pass. Alright, I'll contact you later and treat you to a drink when I have time. Li Ji did not force it, saying too much would not be beautiful. After bidding farewell to his junior, Li Ji quickly ran to the ATM and charged 20,000 yuan into his bank card. After a clanging fee deduction notification, the balance in the card returned to single digits. Ah, when can I fill you up? After stepping out of the single room at the self-service access machine, Li Ji sighed with melancholy, causing the people next to him to glance sideways. Fill this thing up. Are you funny? Filling up the phone bill is more reliable than this. I have money in my pocket, of course it's for consumption. However, in the big city of Shanghai, consumption is too sensitive. Especially with the large amount of cash in his hand. Spending 1,000 or 800 yuan is okay, spending tens of thousands of yuan at once may make the other party suspicious. In this era, spending tens of thousands of dollars in cash is not a problem. Li Ji was not hesitant either. He bought a train station ticket overnight and headed straight to his hometown H-City. One day later after returning to his hometown, Li Ji also let go and crazily purchased materials. Rock sugar. Sugar rice paper toilet paper. A long sword, a steel knife. The artificial gemstones ordered online have been shipped, but it will take a few more days. Let's talk about it later. The crossbow gun I entrusted someone to buy has arrived, and I happen to have money. I paid the remaining balance and brought the things. After hastily ordering all the supplies, Li Ji returned to the state of Wu again. Zhang Yuanwei made an appointment with him today to taste tea, and if he doesn't come again, he will break the promise. Honesty is one of the most important qualities of being a person, isn't it? Mr. Li's visit to my humble abode really makes my humble abode shine. You're welcome, brother Zhang. After arriving at Zhang Yuanwei's house, the two exchanged pleasantries for a while. Later, Zhang ordered someone to offer fragrant tea. This tea. Hehe, the authentic tribute tea, you have a good taste today. Li Ji looked at the mixture of spices, rice, and crushed tea leaves in the teacup, which really couldn't arouse his appetite. But Mr. Zhang was reluctant to accept it, so Li Ji reluctantly picked up his teacup and took a sip. This tea is TM salty. After a wake-up call, Li Ji quickly put down his teacup and began to get to the point. Brother Zhang, did you come to me today just to taste tea? Zhang hesitated for a moment. Upon seeing his expression, Li Ji roughly guessed 7 or 8. It's just that I took a liking to the gemstone in his hand and wanted to get some goods from him. The next sentence from Zhang Yuanwei made Li Ji lose some sense of propriety. Is it okay for a virtuous younger brother to get married? Are you interested in finding someone? Ah. Li Ji was taken aback. Are you a matchmaker? Since the words were spoken, Mr. Zhang didn't even conceal them and explained them clearly. He has a lifelong friend who has no children and only a daughter who is as beautiful as a flower. A few days ago, my old friend drove a crane to the west and entrusted his daughter to Mr. Zhang before his death. After all, the girl is old, and staying at home is not enough. Over time, others may have crooked thoughts. Just then, Li Ji appeared. Handsome, young and wealthy. The most important thing is that both of these parents have died. Flipping into the door. Brother, you're here, Li Ji couldn't help but laugh and cry. Mr. Zhang knew there was a play when he saw that Li Ji did not refuse. You heard my brother say, my friend has a wealthy family. Although you don't care about this, isn't it good to add the icing on the cake? Besides, my niece's beauty is as beautiful as a flower. If you don't have a marriage, why not achieve a beautiful thing? Dear younger brother, although they are recruiting a son-in-law, they cannot resist your surnames being Li. You have no father and no mother, and she has no father and no mother. You are not the final say at home. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Being involved in the kidnapping storm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Being involved in the kidnapping storm. After coming out of Zhang's house, it was already dark. Li Ji drank faintly and politely refused to ask someone from outside Zhang to see him off. He ran around all the way back to the mansion. What's wrong with this matter today? How could there be such a good thing in the world? The daughter of a wealthy family, with abundant wealth and lost parents, brought her family's wealth to recruit a husband. Did you happen to find him as an orphan? And Mr. Zhang is also too anxious, isn't he? Look at what he means. I wish I had Li Ji inspect the goods tonight. By the way, that wealthy woman has been living in the mansion of Mr. Zhang recently. The weasel pays New Year's greetings to the chicken. Fortunately, Li Ji is a person who has experienced the baptism of modern society. If we really want to switch to an authentic ancient person, maybe we'll fall for it. Li Ji, who grew up poor, has always believed in a core idea. There is no free lunch in the world, and those who don't want money are the most expensive because they want more. Moreover, this is not only free of money, but also retroactively posted, making it even more suspicious. However, during the banquet, Li Jin saw a graceful figure, probably the girl named Li Susu. To be honest, although he didn't see his face, just looking at the lines of his back, Li Ji almost couldn't control it. However, the only remaining reason tells him that he has too many secrets and is not suitable to live under the same roof as others. At present, we are still selling some gemstones, and the next step is for Li Ji to open a Baibao pavilion. From jade treasures to rice paper rock candy, everything is sold. And Li Ji's diagram is also simple, the path of cultivation. Open a shop first, and once the reputation is established, try to settle in a larger city. For example, in the capital city. If he wants to open a shop, his family must not have anyone to sleep with. The jade is fine. What do you say about rice paper rock candy? Without seeing your workshop, can it be transformed out of thin air? Do you consider yourself the ancestor of immortality, Sun Quan? As soon as Li Ji thought of this, he couldn't help but think of the little maid Duya at home. Duya was specially bought by him from a dental firm and he signed a sales contract directly. He didn't originally plan to, but Zhang Yuanwei's words woke him up. Li Gongzi, it seems that there is no one available at your mansion. I happen to have a few well-trained maids and chefs here. Can you take them and use them first? After Zhang finished speaking, Li Ji's cold sweat came down. He's not social, he's too social. Completely not integrated into this feudal society, the style of behavior is still modern. It's understandable that there are no maids at home, but what about the kitchen and kitchen staff? You, the owner of the Grandly mansion, cannot even make a fire and cook by yourself, can you? After regaining his senses, Li Ji went to the dental clinic without stopping and immediately fell in love with bean sprouts. It's not that the little girl is so beautiful, it's because Duya is mute. A mute who is not deaf but cannot speak. Actually, bean sprouts are just a decoration at home. Cooking and eating for oneself, without having to change clothes and warm up the bed for Li Ji, it's just a decoration. There is basically no shortage of anything in the mansion, and Li Ji's investment is not lower than the usual amount. Scared, Duya, for safety reasons, usually goes out to buy groceries on credit, and those who come back to sell groceries come back to the mansion to collect money. Li Ji really drank too much, and when the night breeze blew, he felt even more overwhelmed. Who the hell says ancient wine can't get drunk? I'll give him a big comparison bag, you come and try drinking 3 to 5 pounds. I casually found a corner, intending to solve my physiological problem. At this moment, the moonlight was bright, and Li Ji was not afraid of anyone seeing him. He lowered his head and untied his pants and belt. Good moonlight. Just as Li Ji lowered his head and untied his belt, a shadow happened to coincide with his shadow. If he hadn't just lowered his head, he wouldn't have noticed. Who? Li Ji's excitement instantly dissipated most of his drunkenness. With a loud shout, Li Ji made a tactical roll and broke away from the opponent's attack range. At this point, thanks to the racial talent of the civet cat, super neural reflexes and super dynamic vision have had a miraculous effect. As long as he is fully focused, the other person's movements are like slow movements, frame by frame. The other person is a masked man in black, holding a short stick and staring straight at him. Which root of heroes and heroes? We shouldn't have any grudges, right? Li Ji knew that there were cultivators in this world and did not dare to launch an attack rashly. Instead, he took a few steps back to inquire. The masked man did not answer, but kept changing his feet, blocking Li Ji's path forward. Upon seeing this situation, Li Ji knew it was not good. Sure enough, before he could speak again, a strong wind howled behind him. It's a sharp blade. Under the reflection of the moonlight, a white light flashed before Li Ji's eyes and he let out a terrible cry. Excellent neural reflex speed once again saved Li Ji. Despite the enemy's surprise attack, Li Ji still managed to dodge with a sidekick. At this moment, the person in black on the front also moved and swung his wooden stick fiercely towards Li Ji's landing point. However, Li Ji is least afraid of this straightforward attack. Like a sensitive flower cat, it bounced and flipped, dodging this blow again. The person who attacked did not succeed, turned back and retreated into the alley behind them. 2 people. Li Ji's head was sweating profusely. The other party cooperates tacitly and remains silent, and is not a simple person who robs the way. But Li Ji couldn't figure out why he attacked himself. Was it because he was leaking too much money? If they were for wealth, Li Ji would not hesitate. After crossing over, he had already made enough preparations to see blood. And if cultivators want to rob money, they have a better choice, such as Zhang Yuanweijia not far away. I'm afraid I might be caught up in the disputes among cultivators. Li Ji has only heard of cultivators and has never seen them at all. He couldn't fathom how strong his own strength was. At this point, Li Ji decided to test it again. Both of you are seeking wealth, little brother. Before he could finish speaking, a tall and sturdy figure walked out from behind the black-clothed man holding a wooden stick. Also wearing black clothes and a mask, but carrying something on his shoulder, it looks like a person. Seeing this, Li Ji's heart instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. MD, you've met the kidnappers. At this point, he also understood that he couldn't do anything good today. The other party kidnapped him, and it was impossible to leave a living person. Kill me. The tall black-clothed man seemed to be the leader, and as soon as he spoke, the other two black-clothed men rushed forward. Li Ji couldn't control so much at this moment. With a gesture, a continuous crossbow appeared in his hand. Oh my God! 4 crossbows and arrows were fired in a row, and the black-clad man in a wooden stick did not have a chance to react before falling to the ground and dying. Not a practitioner. As soon as this thought arose, Li Ji felt that the attack had already arrived behind him. Li Ji calmly threw away the crossbow gun in his hand and dodged to the side. Suddenly, an explosion-proof shield appeared in his hand. Dong! The dagger pierced the explosion-proof shield with a muffled sound. With the power of a cow, Li Ji easily resisted the shield and advanced, pinning the black-clothed man who was ambushing to the wall. Take out another crossbow with your backhand from the space and aim it at the tall black-clothed man to create a set of continuous hair. The leader in black never dreamed that Li Ji could take things out of thin air. With unwillingness, the leader in black also fell to the ground. Li Ji turned his face again, and the transparent explosion-proof shield clearly saw that the attack on the black-clothed man was no longer as calm and ruthless as before. 2 eyes exuding an endless look of fear. You are Xiu. Li Ji didn't wait for him to finish speaking. He suddenly moved his shield and hit his temple with a heavy punch after he fell to the ground limply. Li Ji didn't hesitate at all and picked up the crossbow gun on the ground, filling it up one by one. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Li Family Father and Son. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Li Family Father and Son. The seductive moonlight and gentle breeze should have been an intoxicating spring night. The scattered corpses on the ground and Li Ji's gloomy and solemn face completely destroyed this beautiful scenery. The one lying on the ground, "Stop pretending, I know you're awake." Li Ji clenched the crossbow gun in his hand and asked coldly. He didn't know if the other person was awake, so he deliberately probed them. However, the other party showed no response. Then Li Ji clenched his crossbow gun and slowly walked over. Upon inspection, it was felt that the boy had really fainted. Li Ji quickly stood up and collected the corpses in the space. Subsequently, the crossbows and knives on the ground were thrown in a mess. "Kid, whether you're awake or not, I'll treat you as awake." Li Ji is still worried and continues to test the other party. If the other party really wakes up, then I'm sorry. The other party may not be able to guess the personal space, but 80% of them will think about treasures such as space rings and mustard bags. Listen up, I saved your life, which means you owe me your life. Now that I have an urgent matter, let's face the sky on the road and go our separate ways. After saying these words, I waited quietly for dozens of seconds to confirm that the other person was really not awake. Li Ji breathed a sigh of relief and was about to leave. De Lang. Young master, ... This way, the dog has smelled this way. Waves of calls accompanied by the barking of dogs came from afar. I can't wipe it off. Please. Li Ji frowned tightly. If he insists on leaving at this moment, the other party will definitely think that this matter is related to him if they catch up with Tai. He is not afraid of battle, not afraid of confrontation on the spot, he just finds it troublesome. Intentionally pulling out a corpse from the space to recharge, one can see through their thoughts that the corpse has already been decomposed. Bang the Yuan Yang, stick Kung Fu, +1 HP, from the wooden stick masked man, Qinshan fist and footwork, HP +2, 1 bull power, from the leader masked person, spirit snake control dagger technique, dagger martial arts, from the dagger masked man. After 3 messages arrived, Li Ji felt a bit dizzy. Not only that, but even the body is surprisingly hot. Fortunately, these feelings were only momentary, and then a sense of fullness arose naturally. This feels familiar to him, as it was when he decomposed the cow and gained the power of a cow. Taking advantage of the fact that Li Ji had not yet come to the activity, he felt his strength and felt a slight sense of fear. My battle is really dangerous. Blood chi plus 2 equals 1 ox's strength. The masked leader is on par with him in terms of strength alone, not to mention the martial arts of Jinshan Fist. This will open up the situation for the opposite side. Even if he has the agility of a cat, it is likely to be explained. Fortunately, the other party did not expect that Li Ji had such cheats as personal space. It's time for these three people to take care of the situation, as they have a mental calculation but no intention. Who are you? What happened to my young master? Just as Li Ji felt the memories of those martial arts, a servant holding a torch found it. I am the owner of the Li Mansion. I had dinner with my friends a bit late today and happened to meet a group of thieves who kidnapped your young master. I helped them out easily. Li Ji didn't vent his anger with a servant, he just wanted to quickly solve the problem here and return to the main world to have a good sleep. He never sleeps in this world, especially after learning that there are cultivators in this world. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall, which was given to Li Ji by the religion of his ancestors. Li Mansion. What a thief. Alright, Li San, step back. A heavy and steady voice drank away the servants. Li Ji followed the sound and saw the incoming person clearly. A bitter smile appeared on his face. No wonder he reported the name of the Li Mansion, that servant was in a hurry. Is it Li Ji and Li Xiandi who just returned from overseas? Haha, thank you for taking the initiative to save the dog. That person didn't look at his own son either, but let his servants carry him down. It turned out to be Lord Li in front of me, disrespectful, disrespectful. Li Jika politely returned a gift. He has seen the other party before, but has not made any payment. He is a local tycoon, the Li family. This is really Qiao's mother opening the door for Qiao. Qiao has arrived home. What day is today? Did the Tang dynasty establish its own country? Why is this surname Li constantly coming out? However, Li Ji didn't pay much attention either. The Li surname is a legitimate and influential family name with numerous branches. There are many people with the surname Li, just like the stars in the sky. Gentlemen, you're welcome. If it's convenient, why don't you move to the Li Mansion on East Street? The other party obviously doesn't care about their son as they appear, otherwise they wouldn't have taken Li Ji to his house in the middle of the night. Convenient. I really want to be convenient, but unfortunately I was interrupted just now and happened to go to your house to pee. It's really impolite to invite my wise brother over again in the middle of the night. When they arrived at the Li Mansion on East Street, Li Ji's buttocks had not even heated up yet, and the other party couldn't hold back. Young man, have you seen the other person's face clearly? This, Li Ji frowned, carefully recalled, and shook his head. They are all covered in night clothes, except for knowing that one is tall and the other two are of average height, so there is nothing special about them. Li Ji had no intention of concealing anything, but instead carefully recalled it. He is bold and generous, makes many friends, and spends a lot of money to create a character that cannot be easily lost. In this feudal society, a good reputation can really be used as a precious asset. By the way, the one holding the dagger has a triangular eye, and I really don't have time to pay attention to the other two. All my attention is focused on the noble young master. Actually, Li Ji knows exactly what the robber looks like, but there's no need to go into so much detail. Li Wei, the owner of Li Mansion on East Street, always thought that those three people had run away. Besides, he can't explain clearly. Anyway, if I meet you in the future, I hope you don't hesitate to take action. It's easy to say. Shit. You're so impolite. Li Ji didn't expect the other party to be so sincere. He just asked for his help when he spoke up. However, next, Li Wei's actions made Li Ji couldn't help but shout. Dog Tycoon. My dear brother, this is the land deed for a shop on East Street. You and I are both descendants of the Li family. 100 years ago, we might have been in the same family. How many years have we grown up for our brother? It would have been a meeting gift. I can't do it. I can't do it. If I were someone else, I would still act with justice. Li Ji repeatedly refused. If the other party gives a skill, Li Zhirong doesn't even give in. But let's forget about the shops, it would be great to make the other party owe a favor. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned, and after a series of excuses, Li Ji eventually took over the shop. What else can Li Ji do if the other party says, "Do you look down on me if you don't take it?" Just as the two were chatting about their business, a loud voice came from outside the lobby. The child's unfilial behavior has worried my father. Just by listening to the sound, one cannot tell their age at all, but rather has a hint of a heroic and carefree spirit. Li Wei heard the sound and explained to Li Ji with a smile, "It's Li Kai, the son of a dog, who made my wise brother laugh. Kai heir, come here and give your uncle a good kowtow." Before Li Ji could refuse, the young man entered the door with two loud bangs of his head. "Kai heir, thank you very much, Uncle Shi, for taking action with righteousness. It's easy to say, nephew Shi, get up quickly." Li Ji didn't fully inflate either, so he quickly helped him up. Li Kai looked 17 or 18 years old, and Li Ji himself was only 20.3. Calling uncle and nephew really got the light of knowing his father first. I feel ashamed to say that both my father and son are martial artists, but they were tricked by a group of thieves. It really makes my wise brother laugh. Martial man. If you want to say this, I won't be tired anymore. Li Ji's eyes suddenly lit up. The warriors of Wu represent the martial arts cultivation system. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The value of bean sprouts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The value of bean sprouts. After all, Li Ji has not yet learned much about cultivators. People in this world seem to have a deep understanding of these taboos. Especially for practitioners who face outsiders, they are even more secretive. Just listen to what the storyteller on the street says. If you really believe it all, you're a fool. After Sun Quan, the ancestor of immortality, ascended to the sky and went to the same day as the emperor. Do you believe this statement? This is not a small world under the flood. Otherwise, based on this sentence, at least 10 or 8 riding boys will be sent from above to let you know what a great calamity is. After arguing with the father and son of the Li family for a while, Li Ji saw that the weather was almost over and said goodbye. "Young man, if you have nothing to do in the future, come and sit at the mansion more often. We share the same surname as Li, we are not outsiders." Before leaving, Li Wei held Li Ji's arm and warmly invited him. Not to mention Li Ji's kindness to the Li family, it is worth it just because Li Ji is a wealthy businessman who has returned from overseas. What about cultivators? Not to mention cultivation, even cultivating immortals cannot avoid wealth. The 4 essential elements of cultivation are wealth and land, with wealth ranking second. This is also the fundamental reason why Li Ji has been flipping things around and striving to make his family rich. It's easy to say. In the future, if you find that group of thieves, make sure to call on me when you eliminate them. Even if you can't help, it's good to come forward and cheer. Since hearing that group of people also have fellow practitioners, Li Ji has had this idea in mind. Everyone is strict about martial arts, but it's hard to resist Li Ji having cheats. If it weren't for his fear of attracting attention, Li Ji would have had his thoughts on offering a bounty for the body of a cultivator. Li Ji's words touched Li Wei for a moment. This little brother is good, he can handle it. The righteous Guaniri back then was nothing more than that. Both sides were polite again and said goodbye. This time, Li Ji did not persevere and allowed several servants from the Li family to escort him all the way to the Li family on North Street. North Street Li Mansion is Li Ji's family, and East Street Li Mansion is Li Wei's family. After returning home, Li Ji hesitated several times and went to the room of the little maid Duya in the dark. Duya. Are you asleep? Duya. No one answered, but a faint sound came from the darkness. Dedi 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 dedi. What's going on? Is there a mouse in the room? Li Ji twisted his eyebrows and asked, what's wrong with Xiaoduya? I don't know how to deal with the mice in the room. Bean sprouts. Dedi 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 dedi. When you wake up, you should say, I have something to tell you. Dedi 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 dedi. Listening to Li Ji muttering to himself at the door, Dia was so scared that her soul was about to fly. Here it is, this day has finally arrived. Woo 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 woo, she signed a contract of sale, and according to the contract, her entire life is Li Ji's property. If Li Ji kills her, the government will impose a maximum fine of 2 taels of silver. Not to mention now that Li Ji has arrived in her room in the dark after calling a few times without a response, Li Ji suddenly woke up and slapped himself on the forehead, calling himself a fool. Duya is mute, how could he possibly answer him? Later, regardless of whether Duya woke up or not, Li Ji stepped forward and rolled her up along with the bedding, walking towards the cellar in the backyard. I'm telling you, lately you've been sleeping in the cellar as usual during the day. Young master, I've offended someone and I need to go out and hide. After speaking, regardless of whether Dia could understand or not, he left the cellar. The group of robbers tonight are designated to have a big grudge against Li Wei. He was inexplicably involved in it and even ruined the other party's affairs, which can be considered a tie. This is also the reason why Li Ji and Li Wei pretended to be polite and said they wanted to cheer him on. If the enemy doesn't die for a day, Li Ji will have difficulty sleeping and eating. Li Ji never stays overnight in the state of Wu at night, but Dia cannot be brought with him. Forget about the past, let her stay in the cellar for the next few days. It's difficult to find a beautiful mute maid. Don't turn around. If the enemy can't find you, use Dia to vent your anger. After returning to the main world and sleeping soundly, Li Ji planned to go home. Last time I had to rush to the state of Wu to make an appointment, but when I arrived at my doorstep, I didn't even enter. Mainly because I haven't come up with any excuses to leave some money for my family. Li Ji is from a single-parent family. His father was lost since childhood, and his mother worked hard to pull him up, which was really not easy. But this time he is not planning to give the money directly, he has a better plan. It's not a big deal for me to work for her, why not open a grocery store for her? One is to stabilize my mother and make her less hardworking. The second is that the grocery store can also be used as a cover-up, and the entire warehouse can be used as a transfer station without being too eye-catching. Now his business in the state of Wu is limited to selling gemstones, and he only occasionally sells one. But things like gemstones and jade are ultimately luxury goods. You can sell 1 or 2 for some money, just consider yourself a spendthrift. If you want to sell every day, then there's a problem. So Li Ji plans to turn his serious business towards another path. Sugar. At first, Li Ji wanted to sell grain and tea. After communicating with Mr. Zhang, this attention was ultimately dispelled. Food is too sensitive and lacks sufficient background support to afford this business. And tea is even worse. Once the tea from the main world is circulated, it will inevitably cause a great impact on these ancient people. The main reason is that the habit of stir-frying tea and drinking clear tea here has not yet become popular. Once one's own tea enters the market, it will definitely touch the interests of old-fashioned tea merchants, and the gains and losses are not worth the losses. The most important point is that tea is the core product of trade between Wu and foreign ethnic groups. It's okay if you make a fuss and sell a little. If you dare to expand your business, sooner or later you'll end up losing money. So after much thought, Li Ji still chose an industry that seemed obscure but actually had high profits and low risks. Sugar. The main sugar products currently produced by Wu State are sucrose and sucrose secondary processing products. Sugar has a yellow and burnt color, and due to poor craftsmanship, there is even a bitter taste before secondary processing. But the main world is different, the sugar industry is extremely developed. Various styles and tastes that emerge endlessly can definitely open up the Wu market. The most important thing is cheap. A bag of white sugar is packed in 1 kilogram and costs 5 yuan. Supermarkets can sell it. And in the state of Wu, 1 or 2 sucrose without secondary processing costs a whopping 21. The chicken blood stone that Li Ji dealt with last time was only worth 1 silver. Even if Li Ji's white sugar and sucrose were priced the same, buying a piece of chicken blood stone like that would only require 10,000,005 pounds of white sugar. It only costs 25 yuan when converted. You should know that this is the retail price, wholesale will only be cheaper. I only spent 5 silver on buying bean sprouts back then. A bag of sugar equals 200 when equals 2 guan. Bean sprouts equals 25 packs of sugar equals 125 pieces. By this calculation, bean sprouts is almost equal to 3 people eating a meal at KFC. However, Li Ji's white sugar cannot be sold for 21 per liang, it is definitely more expensive. Otherwise, it will become malicious market destruction, and there will be good fruits to eat. After thinking about these things, Li Ji felt it was necessary to open a grocery store. 1 or 2 packs of sugar is not a problem, and even 10 or 8 packs are not a concern for you. But if you buy 1 ton and still pull it home, then it doesn't make sense. Amidst countless thoughts, I finally arrived home, Mom. I'm back. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Planning of the Main World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Planning of the Main World. On the dining table, a steaming plate of dumplings filled Li Ji's mouth with oil. Mom, your salesperson did a good job back then. Why drive a taxi? You earn almost the same amount. Li Ji stuffed dumplings into his mouth and asked casually. Well, isn't that because you recently graduated? It's a bit more to earn. Your father's insurance compensation is not high, so save some money and he'll have to marry you. The mother's light and floating words stunned Li Ji on the spot. Taxi drivers are better than salespeople, but they are also much more tired. I can't afford a taxi license at home, so I have to work night shifts for other taxi drivers. Moreover, my mother's waist has always been poor, and sitting and driving for a long time may be a problem. For a moment, Li Ji didn't know what was going on. He always felt his eyes sour, as if vinegar had been sprinkled in. I opened my mouth, but I don't know where to start. Opening a supermarket requires taking it slow, at least having a source of startup funds. Buying lottery tickets is a good excuse, but there is a fatal loophole that cannot be filled in. Mom, why don't we open a supermarket in the county town? Li Ji calmed down and said with a stiff face. Opening a supermarket. Li Ji's mother put down the bowl in her hand and reached out to touch her son's head. No fever. Where did your wild idea come from? Li Ji didn't waste any time either. After pulling the suitcase over, he opened it with a swoop. Bundles of banknotes were packed and packed. Here is about 500,000 yuan. I won 1 million yuan from a lottery ticket a few days ago, and even after paying taxes, it was exchanged for cash. Li Mu was stunned for a moment, then quickly pulled up the suitcase and scolded lightly, Did you really win the lottery? You child, why didn't you say it in advance? You came back so far from Shanghai with a box of money. You said I would drive to pick you up. Trust, unconditional trust. My mother didn't even doubt it and completely believed Li Ji's words. To be precise, my mother knew that the money was not from buying lottery tickets, but she did not expose Li Ji. The lottery money is all paid by clocking in, who is so careless as to send you cash. These hundreds of thousands are okay, can we give cash even if we win a few 100 million? But Li Ji's mother just didn't ask, how did she drip? Just have your own son. Mom, I've checked and found out that as long as we don't open a big supermarket, we won't lose money. Li Ji saw that his mother didn't ask after him, so he took a deep breath and began to deceive him. We have a house at home, so we don't need a car at the moment. Why don't we just invest it and open a small supermarket? Li Ji's analysis is straightforward, and in fact, it is just that. Opening a supermarket usually involves stocking up, which means that some goods are delivered for sale first and then settled at the end of the month based on the number of sales. Let me tell you, a few new properties have already started to be delivered. Taking advantage of this, it's perfect to open a small supermarket downstairs at the entrance of the community. After a little contemplation, Li's mother also agreed to Li Ji's idea. She has worked as a supermarket salesperson and has a clear understanding of many processes, including operational models and profits from certain products. The profit is small, but stable. When you say that, Mom really remembers. Li's mother hurriedly got up and went back to the room. After rummaging through boxes and cabinets, she found a small notebook. At that time, I worked as a salesperson and I took down a lot of delivery information. These are all contact information. Li Ji's eyes lit up and he quickly took the small notebook. What Zhang's family sells seasoning, and Li's family sells drinks, remember clearly. Li Ji took out his phone and deliberately took pictures of the candy seller and seasoning seller. I really don't know how good a cook is when I don't eat, and the seasoning is definitely more high-end in the market. The food from Wu Kingdom and the food from the Grand Restaurant are only barely palatable to Li Ji, not unpleasant. It has nothing to do with the chef's craftsmanship and the times, mainly because chicken essence, monosodium glutamate and 13 fragrances have too strong killing power. You should know that before monosodium glutamate, there were only 5 flavors. Sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, and salty. After the presence of monosodium glutamate, freshness is incorporated into the taste, rather than a recognition of ingredients. Mom will be preparing in the next few days. Li's mother touched the suitcase, feeling overjoyed. With proper business, my son's marriage will be worry-free. He owns the house, and when his father was still there, he bought a large house of over 180 square meters. Despite all these years of difficulty, Li's mother never thought of selling the house for a smaller one. Otherwise, if a child from a single-parent family doesn't have a big house or money, whose girl would be interested in it? Hi, take your time raising funds. Preparing to arrange a blind date for you. The latter half of my mother's words choked Li Ji back. Hee, prepare this, my dear mother. Li's mother knew what her son meant, so she glared at him and said angrily, are you treating business as a rush to buy and sell? If you accidentally inspect the market, you won't even have any underwear left to pay for. Alright, put the money away and don't deposit it in the bank. Just lock it at home. As she spoke, Li's mother was about to leave. Hey. Stop driving a taxi, right? We're talking about opening a supermarket, right? Silly child, what should I do if I don't work their night shift now? Where can I find someone on the spot? A person should have a beginning and an end, at least wait until the end of the month. During the conversation, Li's mother had already put on her shoes. After dinner, Li Ji was not idle either. He picked up his phone and went downstairs, riding his small electric donkey straight to the market. Hello, Bins. Who am I? I'll go to your grandfather's house, I'm your father. I was planning to call Fa Xiao and say he's gone home, but who knew this guy and Li Ji were playing a game where you called the wrong number. Fuck you. Xiaobin laughed and cursed from the other end. Did you go home? I just went on a trip and recently talked about a small internet celebrity from another city. He's so naughty. Just live, who can survive you? Li Ji gave him a sour scolding and then got down to business. I plan to open a small supermarket. Isn't your family engaged in warehouse rental business? Are you available? At the current stage, the state of Wu may not be very safe, and coincidentally, Li Ji also has funds in his hands, so he has the intention of first gathering the strength of the 9 oxen. Li Ji from the state of Wu took the time to try it out, and currently, apart from humans, nothing else can be decomposed. There are too many empty warehouses, but you need to use them. Xiaobin hesitated a few words. Li Ji understood his thoughts and immediately said, "How much does it cost?" "Business is business, and friendship is friendship. Just find me a more convenient and secluded place with convenient transportation. Other people's warehouses can also be rented, but if they rent someone else's warehouse, Li Ji is worried that the landlord will keep the keys without authorization. Nowadays, people's hearts are complex, and there are all kinds of abnormalities. I really met a voyeur and treated Li Ji once. Although this possibility is very small. Xiaobin, no matter how he is said to be an acquaintance, as long as he doesn't know what Li Ji does, he won't pry into his usual movements. Moreover, Li Ji plans to renovate the warehouse and usually travels through compartments. Now that I have returned home, most of the time I still live under the same roof as my mother in the main world, and my home is not so safe either. Besides, 6 cows. He doesn't rent a warehouse or have space to slaughter. The warehouse key is with the administrator. I will explain to him that you can go and connect with him. The phone number is. After solving the problem with the warehouse, Li Ji headed straight to the slaughterhouse. Let me explain one thing to everyone. The plot didn't originally develop like this, but went to the free country and bought a batch of Q. Then in the early stages of combat, it basically relied on Q-ing people. It was not until he obtained the cultivation technique that he began to abandon Q. But there is a very serious problem, river crab. I forgot about this point, TM. Let me solemnly explain it to everyone here. This plot, without the assistance of Q, appears dull and uninteresting, as it was a last-minute outline that I hastily drafted. Originally, the protagonist never had any martial arts skills, and the bull only had one. But because there is no Q left, we can only forcibly change the setting of the golden finger and increase it a few more times. Let's first obtain the power of the 9 bulls before proceeding. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Dead 9 Ox Power of the Card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Dead 9 Ox Power of the Card. Jianghu Slaughterhouse. Jianghu, a very charming name. The owner of the slaughterhouse probably read too many martial arts novels and gave his own factory this name. Of course, the boss is also dressed in a very sophisticated way, with bare arms, dragon and tiger patterns, and a thick beard. Do you want 6 cows? You must be an adult bull. Looking at the refined young man in front of him, the bearded boss was somewhat skeptical. Why, are you afraid of overestimating customers when opening a restaurant? Li Ji responded calmly. Buying 6 big cows at once is really a bit rushed. The restaurants that specialize in selling braised beef are not as strong. But now there will be enemies coming to Wu's side at any time, and Li Ji can't care too much. What is the law of decomposing corpses in this space? He can't figure it out. When he first acquired this ability, he specifically searched the internet for magical animals in nature. He even posted on Chiba, but the response from Shueyu made him laugh and cry. Question. If animal abilities can be extracted, what do water enthusiasts most hope to obtain? This activity is not very good. I will wait for the next one, brother, don't say it for now. The snail is almost catching up with me. Please help me. Water bear worm, it must be water bear worm. May I ask if there are many traits to choose from? Then I will choose snakes. It must be snakes. What's going on upstairs? Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Who can refuse a Wayan real man who has been doing basic exercises for more than 2 hours, that sister.in.law is really the goddess of recklessness. You guys are too dirty. I think the beetle is quite cute, and the male lion is also very powerful to be honest. Abilities like ants are the most boring to be serious. Donkey, if you really want to say it, it's still lobster. Do I remember lobsters have no limit to their lifespan? According to hearsay, ping tu gu. I heard someone is dissatisfied. Salamander. Where is my head? Where is my head? Giant panda. Ah, I don't know if Chi-Yu is doing well or not. Inland taipan snake. Hitoi, black mamba snake, Belcher sea snake. He, half mouth, dot. The building is completely crooked here, and there is a lot of chaos and commotion below. However, this really gave Li Ji great inspiration. Far away, the salamander is a skill that suits him well and can be easily acquired. Having a severed head never dies, and it can also be reborn. This is in the martial arts system, but it is only a second-level ability. Come on, little brother. I've killed all the cows for you. Do you want any blood? Li Zhijing was lost in thought when he asked a question by a stroke of luck. Brother, you have a lot of experience. Which of these animals is the most powerful? What do you mean? The boss was stunned, but after some thought, he answered seriously, including humans, it can only be humans. No matter how powerful animals are, they can still surpass airplanes and cannons. The guys who were loading the car on the side also started cheering along. That's right, don't talk to me about this thing being awesome, that thing being loser. I'm not convinced by demons from outside the Great Ivan domain. Fuck you, Dongfeng Jingshi Tianzuan said with a smile and no words. The demon Dongfeng Jingshi Tianzuan from outside the Great Ivan domain. We still have no Gatlin Bodhisattva in the south. Li Ji's mouth twitched slightly. If he can get this thing, why buy any cows? With a bombardment, just wait to come back and pick up the body gone. I reckon there's no body left. Hey hey hey. What are you staring at? The boss saw that Li Ji's eyes were lifeless and waved his hand in front of him. Ah. Oh, it's ready, isn't it? How much does it cost? 6 cows, total weight in kilograms, a total of 80,500, I'll give you some allowance. 8,050, huh? Big brother, you're so generous. Finally, under the gaze of his boss, Li Ji paid 80,000 yuan in cash in a disheveled manner. The warehouse is already in place, and the cattle have also been unloaded here. Still the same old routine, just bring the cow into the space and start the decomposition. As each cow is decomposed by space, its body begins to move and move. My whole body was hot, and my muscles seemed to have been melted. Just as Li Ji couldn't hold on and was about to faint, a sharp pain came from his skeletal muscles. It's the pain of crushing bones bit by bit and throwing muscles into a blender. Crunch 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 crunch. Unlike decomposing human corpses to directly obtain qi and blood, decomposing cows brings more than just an increase in qi and blood. Actually, Li Ji's feeling is right. Because after decomposing cows, they also gain a certain amount of physical strengthening. The space without any notification is considered as a free gift. This reinforcement directly changed his bone density and muscle strength. When the strange feeling subsided, Li Ji lay wet on the floor of the space. Eyes lifeless, like a spoiled doll. I'm being careless, I'm really killing myself. I even thought about breaking down 6 cows. After weakness, a sense of strength fills the body like a tide, wave after wave. When strengthening, it is estimated that there is a protective mechanism in place. Even if Li Ji is in a difficult group, he has never fainted. After more than half an hour, the weakness completely subsided, and waves of fullness came to a stop. Li Ji slowly got up and walked to the mirror stored in the space, carefully examining his current self. Originally, he had a delicate and refined appearance, with a tendency towards being more bookish. But at this moment the face remained the same, but the gaze was surprisingly sharp, as if ready to hunt at any moment. This is an additional effect from decomposing cats. Originally, his power was still under control, so his gaze was not as aggressive. But now, with a sharp blade in hand, the heart starts to kill itself. After the huge increase in power, it also brings about a huge change in mentality. The muscles are well defined, although there are no large muscles, they can kill a cow with a single punch from the cliff. Li Ji speculates that after decomposing the cow in space, it is definitely not simply rough and infinitely reinforced meat and bones. But through a mysterious power, reinforcement is achieved without changing the overall appearance and physique of the body as much as possible. It's okay. It's okay, there hasn't been much change, it won't make people suspicious. Li Ji's biggest concern is that his external appearance will change too much in the short term. Fortunately, although there has been a earth-shattering change within him, his appearance has not changed much. Just when you take it seriously, your eyes are too sharp, but when you relax, your eyes are particularly lazy. There's no way, although it's not cat pupils, it's still somewhat influenced by cats. Next is the change in body shape. This is harmless. Li Ji has always been relatively thin, and no one can tell what's inside when he wears clothes. I reached out and clenched my fist, and a sense of strength arose. If it's the speed and supervision of a cat that gives him a feeling of being in control of everything. So the physique of the 9 cows made Li Jisheng feel like, you are all the top sellers. His passion is boundless. I'm going to hit 10. Kirin is a piece of shit, I'll kill it every minute tomorrow. The sudden surge of power made Li Ji feel a bit complacent, even starting to speak wildly. It's okay to hit 10, but kill the Qilin struggling it to death is enough. Decomposed, gained a total of 5.5 Newton strength. Until then, the spatial cues could only be transmitted to Li Ji's ears. I guess this enhancement has just come to a complete end. 0.5 What's going on with 0.5? Is it really stuck like this? The martial arts system of this world, with the power of 9 oxen and 2 tigers, is the limit below the 7th grade. It also represents the limit of human potential. In order to further improve, one must step into the 7th grade, commonly known as opening the heavenly gate. Only after opening the heavenly gate did one have the ability to communicate with heaven and earth through physical means. At that time, under the erosion of the power of heaven and earth, warriors will break through their own shackles and make a qualitative leap. Other systems can communicate and utilize the power of heaven and earth as soon as they are introduced. So warriors below the 7th rank may not be able to stand up to other systems. Because no matter how strong the flesh and blood are, it is difficult to fight against cultivators who control the power of heaven and earth. This is also why some people say that warriors are the weakest. The law of spatial decomposition of animals. I originally wanted the protagonist to slowly discover, and then the readers also discovered. I think it's still necessary to explain. Spirituality. The decomposed animals must be spiritual animals. At the very least, it is necessary to have the most basic thinking and emotions, rather than just instincts. All 12 zodiac animals can do it. Cats don't need to be mentioned, master. Tigers must be able, but the tiger's world is still untouched, afraid of harmony. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Do you still want to be my little brother? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Do you still want to be my little brother? It has been a full week since we obtained the power of 9 oxen. During this period, Li Ji was not only busy with the location and decoration of supermarkets, but also familiarized himself with his own power in the space. Time won't pass here, it's not worth it. The only downside is that he may age faster than his peers. A cow has a load-bearing force of about 400 kilograms and a pulling force of about 380 kilograms. 9 cows stacked together, to be honest, being even stronger is like the power of 10,000 Jun. The ultimate level of martial arts is carrying the power of 9 oxen. The 8th grade on the higher level represents the power of the 2 tigers. This power of the 2 tigers does not refer to strength, but to chi. Although cows have brute force, they only have dull energy without sharpness. And tigers are one of the most aggressive animals in nature. When a warrior reaches the 9th grade, the power of the 9 bulls has reached its limit. At this point, the technique of constantly making soy sauce becomes useful. When breathing and exhaling, and then producing the first wisp of chi, it is considered as entering the 8th grade. However, at this moment, this wisp of chi is still very fragile, not only unable to help oneself in battle, but also needs to be carefully cared for and nurtured. Until this wisp of chi rises again, it is considered a combat chicken in the 8th grade. The aura of killing and attacking. At this stage, chi can be attached to the weapon blade to confront the enemy, greatly increasing its power. It can also be stimulated by certain special means to form a sound roar to deter the enemy. Then, it's about opening the heavenly gate, promoting to 7th grade, and achieving innate success. Only when the heavenly gate is opened can martial artists utilize the power of heaven and earth through their own chi connections. To put it simply, chi is just a kind of energy generated by the ultimate condensation of the strength of warriors. It can not only be used to kill enemies or defend, but also to help warriors communicate with heaven and earth, using heaven and earth to wash away their own bodies, making them harder and more flesh. At this point, my path of martial arts has basically come to an end. In the space, Li Ji put down the 1-ton iron ingot, his brows filled with melancholy. He also doesn't know if he is considered a 9th grade. Without any martial arts assistance, I only utilized space to obtain the power of the 9 bulls. However, the combat effectiveness should be able to keep up. To go further, simply taking shortcuts is not enough. It is necessary to have the assistance of martial arts to help him generate a sense of chi. Perhaps I can directly obtain chi by decomposing an 8th level warrior. Then he dispelled the idea. Chi and blood are understandable, but this chi helps to connect with heaven and earth. This thing was not cultivated by oneself, I really don't trust it. It's better to kill people with martial arts skills than to expose the techniques they practice. Those 3 masked people are a good example. They definitely didn't just practice martial arts and didn't reveal their techniques, so they probably didn't practice at home. However, thinking of this, Li Ji inexplicably remembered Li Wei and his son. Perhaps my cheap nephew's work is not enough. I can't, shouldn't, at least not. Li Jiqiang stabilized his mind and dispelled the idea of using his cheap nephew's explosive technique. But not being able to touch him doesn't mean we can't use other methods. The world is so vast, there are always warriors willing to share their martial arts skills. There are many low-grade martial artists who have fallen into poverty, but Li Ji has not found them. After making up his mind, Li Ji dodged and withdrew from the space. The various artificial gemstones he ordered online finally arrived, and he picked them up and went to the state of Wu. Never make a decision, but ask Li Kai. As for why it's Li Kai, this silly kid, instead of his father Li Wei Hai, don't worry about these details. As soon as he left the space, Li Ji saw the cat kept by the resident in the neighboring building on his balcony, staring straight at him. Wu Cao. When did you little chubby guy come? Li Ji was slightly surprised. The cat's gaze is too human, it's simply full of admiration. Come on, little chubby, tell uncle what you've seen. Gently walking forward and squatting in front of the kitten, Li Jigang was about to give him a little masturbation when he saw the little beast turn around, with its butt facing him. I treat you like a nephew, but you want to be my little brother. It's impossible. When a cat is pointing its butt at you and gesturing for you to lick, it means you have conquered it and it wants to be your little brother. Li Ji remained unmoved and lightly patted its head. Cat. Alliance failed, attack. Wow oh. After a piercing scream, the cat reached out its paw and was about to scratch Li Ji, but Li Ji easily avoided it. Both of them have the power of cats, but Li Ji still has the bonus of 9 ox constitution. Can he still be injured by a cat? The result was self-evident. He easily grasped the cat owner and after a while of abuse, he let it go. As soon as he let go, the cat owner ran away in a flash, leaving only a silhouette of worry. Cat. The temperament is very flirtatious, sworn but unwilling, after masturbating, let me go, ruthless and cruel. Thanks to Li Ji's lack of mind-reading skills, otherwise he would have been so angry that he would have developed a cerebral thrombosis. I arrived downstairs calmly, and a girl was shouting around with an anxious expression on her face, Mimi Mimi, it's so late to go home, Mom is very worried about you. Li Ji couldn't help but take 2 more glances at the girl. Neighbor for over a decade, he watched this girl grow up little by little and never dared to talk to her. The high-end residential area where his family lives was created by Lao Do during his lifetime. After Lao Do left, if it weren't for missing him, the impoverished mother and son would have sold the house long ago. This girl is different, she is a genuine and beautiful woman. Previously, Li Ji's single-parent family had poor conditions and was somewhat insecure, so he didn't dare to talk to anyone. But for now Li Ji said he is not in the mood to talk about any dog sour love, and the number 1 Feng Xin Yang from Fuxiufang has invited him several times but he hasn't gone. Mainly because the space is not ready for tea cough. Just as I was about to leave, I heard the girl talking to herself again, it shouldn't be that big. Where can I hide such a big Mimi? Upon hearing this, Li Ji couldn't help but stop his steps. Indeed, such a big Mimi is not easy to hide. Now Li Ji can't handle it anymore, so he leaned over without obeying his commands, cough, I think I saw it just now. Xiao Ji, yes, bring your brother out and let him help, please. Brother, your whole family is brothers. My younger brother was a husky he picked up in his sophomore year. My mom really liked it and even named it Li Wu. By shouting and shouting, he became Li Ji's younger brother. This guy was really naughty, so he decided to go wild in his hometown in the countryside. Cough, Li Wu went to play at his grandmother's house. Speaking of which, Mimi seems to have run outside. Let's split up and find each other. You can add me on WeChat and notify each other when we find it. Speaking, Li Ji naturally took out his phone. The girl's heart was all on Mimi, and she didn't think much about the 2 of them adding each other on WeChat. Thank you, Xiaoji. I'll treat you to a big meal later. Hi, it's a small matter. Let's split it up with brother Xiaoji and just say, hello brother. By the way, give me a photo. Li Ji waved his hand, indicating that he didn't care about those details. The girl didn't know why, but she obediently sent a very warm photo to Li Ji. What I'm talking about is a photo of a cat, you. Amazing. A beautiful voice, sweet figure, and a fool. End of this chapter. Where did my little bean sprouts go in chapter 9? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where did my little bean sprouts go in chapter 9? In a different world, the city of Jingzhou in the state of Wu. This is Li Ji's first time returning to the state of Wu in the evening. No matter how late it is on weekdays, as long as it's time to go to bed, Li Ji will never stay overnight here. But now, unlike in the past, with the power of the 9 cows and some local specialties purchased from the countryside, Li Ji has gained some confidence. Bean sprouts. Bean sprouts. After shouting twice, the yard was quiet and there was no sound coming out. Li Ji was taken aback, couldn't this girl really be kidnapped? Just hesitating whether to report to the government, a faint conversation came from the backyard. Did someone really break into the house? He took off the steel knife on his back and walked slowly to the backyard, intending to meet the unwelcome guest for a while. After entering the backyard, the familiar face in front of Li Ji left him somewhat bewildered. Are you Li Sanner? Li Sanner was the servant who scolded Li Kai the day he was kidnapped. I've been waiting for you for 3 days and you're back. My eldest young master has had an accident, please go there quickly. What happened to Li Kai? What happened to Li Shixiang? Li San'er saw that Li Zhifei wanted to ask carefully, and her face was sweating with anxiety. Hi, hurry up and take a look. It's too late, you won't see the young master anymore. Speaking of which, Li Ji dared not delay and rushed all the way to East Street. Entering the front door, without considering any courtesy issues, he broke into the inner house without waiting for the servant to report. As soon as I entered, a foul and disgusting smell rushed in. It was also mixed with a dizzying light fragrance, which was absolutely amazing. I'll go. Nephew Li Kai, did you pull the blanket in your bed? Squeezing his nose and roast, Li Ji pushed the door and entered. What's the situation with Xian? There is only one old man waiting in Li Kai's house, who is the butler of the Li mansion. And Li Kai himself was lying in bed, with a face that was too yellow and thin to describe. It was more appropriate to say that he was on the brink of death. But Uncle Shi has come. Li Kai seemed to hear a familiar voice and asked in an extremely weak tone. The old butler saw that Li Kai was going to speak, so he quickly made way for Li Ji. Dear nephew, are you here? Li Ji reached out and shook his hand in front of Li Kai, but Li Kai showed no response. Are you blind? Uncle Shi, I have been ambushed, but with the protection of pills, I cannot die. I will sleep soundly at any time until the poison is cleared before waking up. Now, please listen carefully to my instructions. Li Kai grabbed Li Ji's hand. Feeling the sticky touch on his hands, Li Ji took a few gentle thrusts but didn't pull it out, so he had to give up. Aren't you blind? Why did you catch so accurately? Uncle Shi, there's no need to be sad. It's an honor for me, Li Kai, to meet heroes like Uncle Shi in this lifetime. The corner of Li Ji's mouth on the opposite side twitched slightly, nodding heavily and saying, don't say that to your nephew, you quickly get to the point. Taking advantage of the situation, I pulled out my hand. Li Kai let out a and continued, I originally intended to personally recommend my Li family ancestor to Uncle Shi, but now I'm afraid it's too late. Uncle Shi, please bring me a pen and paper, and I'll write a handwritten letter to my ancestor. If there's nothing urgent, why don't you tell me what happened first? Also, where have my little bean sprouts gone? Dear nephew, it's not urgent to write a personal letter first. Let's get down to business, my mute. Cough, cough, cough. Li Kai suddenly coughed violently and sprayed Li Ji with dirty blood. Li Ji. You damn it. He has a mild cleanliness disorder, usually not much, but is particularly sensitive to other people's bodily fluids and other things. During his college years, when his roommate sneezed, Li Ji had to go take a shower. Uncle, there are 2 women you need to be extra careful with. One is the leader of the Fuxiu workshop, Feng Si Nyang. The other is. Cough 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 cough. Can it be done? If you don't want to get serious, go to bed quickly. Just getting to the point, are you playing the top card with me? Is it time to say this now? Uncle Shi. Li Kai suddenly became emotionally agitated and waved his hands haphazardly, like a shining light. Li Ji looked at him and calmly carried his hands behind his back. Dear nephew, why don't you tell me the bean sprouts? Li Kai couldn't find his hand, so he simply grabbed Li Ji's collar and whispered to him with his face pressed against it, the second is Zhang Yuany's niece. I have met her once by chance. She is not easy. Zhang's niece. Li Susu. Li Ji's heart twitched slightly, and he didn't care about Li Kai's face-to-face conversation with him. He quickly asked back, is that the woman named Li Susu? Yes. The one who looks very fierce. Li Susu. Li Kai was taken aback and asked in confusion, she should be surnamed Lu, right? Lu. Li Ji took note of this doubt and asked further questions, then go to my little bean sprouts, cough 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 cough. Cough 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 cough. Li Kai had another severe cough, and this time Li Ji's face even had a slight heat. Damn it, just talking about bean sprouts makes you want to live and die. Did you hide the bean sprouts, kid? Animal, she's only 12 years old, she's still a child. Seeing Li Kai's response and thinking about the 3 laws of the Eastern Han Dynasty, Li Ji couldn't help but feel a wave of worry. Chao Wei is a good wife, Dong Wu controls Luo Li, and Shu Han is all foundation. Isn't the state of Wu in front of us the same as the Eastern Wu in the past? By the way, Uncle Sure, I guess I realized I was talking too much nonsense, Li Kai said slowly after coughing. Little nephew, I have something to request. This matter concerns the safety of my Li family. I hope Uncle Sure will not hesitate to take action. Li Ji's eyelids twitched wildly, and an unpleasant feeling surged in his heart. You know what happened last time. As soon as my father rode his horse to the capital, I was once again ambushed by someone. In fact, there was an emperor involved in this. My dear nephew. Li Ji exclaimed with genuine affection and took the opportunity to embrace Li Kai. My heart is crazy roast. You son, please shut up. Do you dare to tell me the secret of the royal family? Do you think I've lived enough, right? Are we so familiar that we can freely discuss this? I don't listen, I don't listen. You are the great king reciting scriptures. Perhaps Li Ji's shaking force was too strong, or perhaps Li Kai was already unable to do it. At this moment, his eyes turned white, and that's all. Hoo. A faint sound came. Li Ji listened repeatedly and finally determined that the sound of deep sleep was developed by Li. Are you falling asleep now? What kind of trick are you using? Where did my little bean sprouts go? Are you saying that? Li Jisong opened Li Kai's face and looked up in confusion, feeling a bit lost. Li Gongzi, during your absence these days, the servants of Li Mansion have been waiting at your residence. The leader of Fuxiu Fang, Feng Xinyang, has invited you many times for a chat. The old butler leaned over to the window and whispered softly. Feng Xinyang. Li Ji's face was submerged in water, and after a few soft moans, he nodded heavily. I know now, tonight I will be the leader of this sleeve-brushing workshop for a while. Seeing that Li Ji was finally willing to help, the old butler burst into tears with excitement. The master indeed did not misjudge anyone. This Li Gongzi from North Street is indeed Guan Eri alive, with a strong sense of righteousness. By the way, old butler, could you tell me, my maid Xiaoduya? Young Master Li, Feng Xinyang sent someone to invite you again. Li San'er's voice sounded timely outside the door. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Public Punishments. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Public Punishments. Master Li, the carriage is ready. Li San'er nervously helped Li Ji onto the carriage. Taking advantage of this time, he also stuffed a yellow paper into Li Ji's hand and whispered to him. Master Li, this talisman is called the Clear Barrier Talisman. After tearing it apart, it can protect you from all kinds of poison for 12 hours. Li Ji nodded without changing his expression, and neither of them mentioned it again afterwards, as if nothing had happened. Can this be considered Li Kai's revenge after being poisoned and plotted? Tell me who has been to my mansion when I'm not around. Despite approaching darkness, the streets are still bustling with people. The two of them tacitly did not mention the matter of the Li mansion. Zhang Yuanwei once sent an invitation, while Feng Xinyang sent people every day. She is the sister in the kiln, it's normal to invite you, a young and wealthy young master, to drink. This is it. Not necessarily. According to the meaning in Li Kai's words, either Li Susu or Feng Xinyang attacked him. No, it should be Lu Susu. But the most likely culprit this time is Feng Xinyang. Because this Feng Xinyang has not invited Li Kai for the first time since he was kidnapped. This alone is worth Li Ji's suspicion of her. Others don't know, but he himself knows the whereabouts of those 3 masked men. The accomplices of the masked man understood even more clearly that these 3 must have been killed. Li Gongzi, there is a saying that I don't know how to say it to a petty person. Li Ji. Stop talking, stop talking. I hate people like you the most. If you have something to say, just say it. What kind of machine are you using? Seeing Li Jimo remain silent, Li San'er gritted his teeth and said, if you haven't broken through yet, it's best not to stay overnight for this appointment. If it's already broken, then what? Li Ji retorted without changing his expression. Joke, Li Ji is a man with golden fingers. Can I tell you that I'm almost 25 or something? Upon hearing this, Li San'er secretly mocked himself for being too talkative. Yes, Li Gongzi is rich and beautiful, unlike me. I only enjoyed the happiness of a man when I was 15 years old. With a shrug, Li San'er smiled with a teasing expression on his face, then you will be blessed. Although Feng Si Nyang is a kiln girl, she is known as the 1 in 1,000. The carriage suddenly experienced a jolt, followed by a sudden brake. Li San'er fixed his gaze and saw that a servant dressed in coarse cloth stopped the carriage and immediately shouted loudly, which servant without eyes dares to stop the carriage of Li Mansion? Do you know who the person on the carriage is? The servant didn't argue with Li San'er and arched his hand at the carriage, shouting, Li Gongzi. Please make sure to come to the mansion for a chat outside of my family. Are you outside of your family? Mr. Zhang. Exactly. Inside the carriage, Li Ji's pupils trembled and he spoke in a deep voice, I have already made an appointment. Let me tell Brother Zhang that I will personally come to apologize tomorrow with a gift. After speaking, Li Ji lightly patted the inner wall of the carriage, Li San'er, what are you doing in a daze? Let's go. The servant became a bit anxious when he heard that Li Ji was going to leave, and now he didn't care if it was on the street, pulling his throat and shouting, Li Gongzi. Li Gongzi, be careful. That Feng Si Nyang from Fuxiufang is not a good person. Shit. Where did Zhang Depang find such a fool? Li Ji cursed inwardly. Although going to the brothel can be considered a charming and elegant behavior, speaking it out on the street is not so elegant. Before Li Ji could speak again, there were several sounds of punches and kicks coming from outside the carriage, followed by screams of agony. Where are the lunatics coming to tarnish Li Gongzi's reputation? Beat him. Li San'er got off the car and got on again shortly after. No one stopped this time, and the carriage ran wildly all the way. Just as it was completely dark, it arrived at the sleeve brushing workshop. Li Gongzi, the villain can only be delivered here. I will pick you up outside, if so. Li Ji nodded slightly and strode into the sleeve brushing workshop with his head held high. Just now, Zhang's servant from another family's house made Li Ji a little suspicious and uncertain. Especially since both suspects have invited him. Moreover, Zhang Yuanwei even blocked the way on the street, claiming that the other person was not a good person. Li Ji's lips curved into a cold smile. Prophet Lu Susu investigates and kills werewolf Feng Si Nyang. Are you going to play werewolf with me? But it seems like I am the wolf, right? Coincidentally, he also wants to know how likely it is to break down the practitioner's explosive technique. Thinking about how to prepare Feng Si Nyang later, Li Ji walked into the door of the Fuxiufang. As soon as I entered, I saw a row of little girls wearing light clothes and thin gauze twisting their buttocks. With a slight movement of his throat, Li Jiqiang averted his gaze from the girls. It's not that he's not firm enough, it's mainly because he's an elderly virgin who hasn't seen this battle before. Upon seeing Li Ji standing at the door like a fool, Yi Gui Gong immediately concluded that he was a child. But this person should be a wealthy owner. Because the sapphire dropped from Li Ji's waist is almost as big as an egg. After seeing the color of the gemstone clearly, the Turtle Lord quickly nodded and leaned over. Master, you are very familiar with me. Li Jizhen was looking at it with great enthusiasm, but suddenly his gaze was blocked. He was unhappy and said, Feng Xinyang invited me. Hiss. Gui Gong widened his eyes and carefully glanced at Li Ji before suddenly turning around and pulling his throat, shouting, Your esteemed guest, Mr. Li Ji from Li Mansion on North Street. What the hell are you shouting, man? Li Ji is also back for the first time, and he didn't expect to go for prostitution. He had to be publicly executed once to make an appointment. At this moment, those present in the Fu Xiu Fang, even if they don't know Li Ji, have heard of his great name to some extent. If this were to be spread, how could he still mess around? Why don't you shout nonsense? Li Ji's face was slightly annoyed, and he flew up and kicked Turtle Lord out. Without waiting for him to stand up, Li Jimai took a step and walked upstairs. Although I don't know where Feng Xinyang is, now Hao is a top player, so I can't wriggle my butt in the hall, can I? A little girl dressed in a light blue dress walked up the stairs without taking 2 steps. Upon seeing Li Ji, the other party curiously glanced at him and then asked in a crisp voice, offering him a blessing, but Mr. Li Ji, in person. Looking at this young and charming little girl, Li Ji blinked and nodded lightly. It's me, hey you come with me, my young lady is in a hurry. After receiving Li Ji's approval, the little girl smiled and pulled him upstairs. Your young lady. Feng Xinyang is your young lady. Which lady will come out to sell? Li Ji murmured roast in his heart. But if we really count it up, Feng Xinyang's statement that she is a young lady is not wrong. Is the little maid next to Feng Xinyang so beautiful? The little girl who led Li Ji upstairs was at most 13 or 14 years old. But his appearance is really not bad. Wearing a light blue dress, with a symmetrical double bun, a strand of mischievous hair scattered on the delicate face. At first glance, she appeared both mischievous and charming, making people want to hold her in their arms and love her fiercely. End of this chapter.